I have a bit.ly attached to the bottom of my first slide here. So if you want to join on my slide, you are more than welcome. I wasn't sure what kind of range of people I was going to get to pop in. So depending on how familiar you are with Seesaw, some of this might be a review and it might be new. So I plan today to kind of review the ideas behind the science of reading. And I'm sure that is not a new concept to anybody here. Introduce Seesaw and tell you how you can use it in your classroom a little bit. And then there's some new Seesaw materials that are introduced this year that are more aligned with science of reading for our beginning readers and our intervention that we can use with students. So we can get on into that. A little about me. I got my undergrad at Briarcliff in Sioux City, and I have just finished, well, I will be finishing my master's here this semester with Morningside. I've got lots of experience in intervention, and reading is kind of my jam. So right now, I guess I should say where I'm working right now in Heartland. Right now, I am working with the Shelter Care Education Program. I work with our students who are in juvenile detention and in our area shelters. I work with kids who are in grades 3 through 12, and 85% of them are very below grade level, up to 2 to 3 grades below. And I am doing right now math and reading. So I have a pretty large caseload. It's really important for me to get to kind of quick interventions as soon as possible, and utilizing the science of reading to do that with them and kind of pinpointing exactly what they need when they need it has worked. So I found some great things with Seesaw that I like to use, so I'd like to share it. As we know, reading has the big 5 ideas of instruction: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. All of those need to work together to make sure we have fluent readers. Some causes of poor reading, there's child-based, environmental, and instructional. I'm not going to go through all of those. You guys can read it. There's lots of different aspects to it. Most of it points to, when I see with my kids that are above grade 3, most of the time they have a deficit in phonemic awareness. So that means that last year I had a 12th grader who was not able to blend sounds. He could read sight words really well, but the sound blending is where he really struggled. So I went through and taught him syllables, and before you knew it, lo and behold, we were reading and sounding out new words. So it's funny how that works, right? MTSS, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this, but as we get, further into our levels of intervention, we should have fewer students. Unfortunately, for my situation, that's the opposite. Our fewer students are actually in the tier 1. Our large group of students are our tier 3 students. But that just is kind of the area that I'm in. So science reading overview, what is it? So it was released this last year by Amplify, one of the big ones anyway. And they basically said it's 2 main frameworks. It's a simple view of reading and Scarborough's rope. These are both very thoroughly researched concepts. Simple view of reading was first introduced in 1986, and it basically said that you have to have both decoding and comprehension to be an avid reader. And without each of those, there will be a missing component. And funny enough, that's exactly what I see with my students. Since I do have the older students, there's not a lot, I don't know what grade levels you guys work with, but it's often found that they're missing those like early elementary skills when they're in upper grades. So making sure that we have those skills that are taught in those elementary primary grades are kind of imperative for them to have success. So basically, you need to work through them together. Decoding skills equal fluency, and oral comprehension, vocabulary, morphology. I don't know if you have seen them in other sessions, but the AEA created some really great vocabulary and morphology books. I can go ahead and put a link in the chat here in a bit that you can get printed through AEA. And it's got some great, like, fun little I'll go grab one really fast. They're on the other side. Be right back. So they look like, whoop, they look like this. Oh, my camera's gonna, let me turn my background off really fast. So they look like this. I don't know if you've seen them. There's phonological awareness, morpheme practice cards, and vocabulary practice cards. And a group of our team with the AEA worked really hard over the last, I suppose it was, they released them last year. And they're really great. So for example, some of the vocabulary is like, if I say something that sounds precarious, say precarious. If not, don't say anything at all. Walking over a rickety bridge that spans a deep canyon. So it's like examples that come with them. And from there, the kids have to derive meanings of them. And these are really great to do with your kids as they're in transitions. From the morpheme, an idea is change the base to sings to pencil. Now say the new word, pencils. So you, of course, you have to have some of those early skills taught, like what's a base word, what's a prefix, what's a suffix, that kind of stuff before you integrate these. But these are really great way to kind of integrate them into your classroom through transitions. But I will put the link to these in the chat for you as well. And Scarborough's rope basically just says language and decoding need to come together to get a skilled reader. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. Okay, quick overview. Done. Syllable patterns. Okay, so if you're teaching syllables, the most infrequent syllable type is consonant LE. So you're probably not going to spend a lot of time working on that. You're going to teach open and closed mostly. So what is an open and closed vowel? Oh, I can't go back. There it goes. So open syllables are basically when you have like me, you hear your open long syllable at the end, and then closed would be cap when it's a short syllable between two consonants. And then there's other things as well. Okay, now what you're all here for, right? Seesaw overview. So Seesaw, I've used, well, since about 10 years ago, I started using Seesaw in my classroom. And when I first started, I was in preschool. And it was really great in preschool. But when it first came out, it was kind of hard to use. There was two different apps. There was the parent app and the student app. And then the teacher app was actually just online at that point. So it was a lot to manage. This year, they've come out with one app. So if you haven't updated your Seesaw app, do that now. And it will integrate everything. So there's no longer like, ooh, do I have the right app downloaded? It's all on that one app together. So some tools that Seesaw has are the photo and video. You can capture your learning every day. The kids can record their voices on there. You can label, use pens, multi-page, allow you to share everything you want. I'll go into Seesaw here in a minute and we can kind of look at those tools a little bit easier. You can use Seesaw for a whole group, independent centers, and social emotional learning. Has anybody used social emotional learning at all? No. So this year they've integrated more of their lessons into that. So I'll go and do an overview of that too, because for the elementary ones, they have got great social stories that go with them too. They're super interactive. So here is an example of one of the lessons that are for early elementary, and it's focused on the letter P.
Letter P makes it pop. Letter P makes it pop. Pretty, pretty please, and a piece of pumpkin pie, and puppies at a party with a pink porcupine. For pepperoni pizza and a pig in pajamas, a penguin and a parrot playing the piano. Letter P.
So as you can see, they're super fun and appealing to lower elementary kids. I probably wouldn't show these to my upper kids and my high schoolers. But some of the fun drop and drag activities that they have that correlate with these work really well. And this is just a snippet from their lessons. So, you know, I don't even think I asked. How many of you actually are using Seesaw regularly? A few of you are commenting yes, yeah. And it is not still iPad only. Sorry, I missed that comment. That you can use it on tablets and stuff too. And then Chromebooks are also compatible. Yes, the pandemic really kind of helped with our Seesaw usage for sure. I know I was teaching third grade at that time, and it definitely helped a lot. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard when you're in person to keep it utilizing it a lot. One of the things that I utilized it for a ton in my third grade room was when I was doing stations. When I was working with my small group kids, my kids would be on their own stations and they would be doing reading to sell for all their different things. Um, and I would have a lot of the times an activity on Seesaw for them to respond to. It kind of keeps them accountable and it keeps me accountable too. One of the really great things that I loved about having Seesaw with my third graders was that it kind of taught them a little bit of digital literacy as well, and etiquette. Being able to turn off commenting and turn on commenting as the teacher is wonderful in your class stream. Yes, the lessons, they're fabulous. Yeah. I had one issue with one or two kids my first year using it where they were commenting inappropriate things. And it was a really great time to, number one, talk about how do we respond to somebody when we think they did great work? How do we not respond to somebody when they're doing great work? And then being able to have turn that on so that you as the teacher approve the comments before they go in, it's really helpful, especially at the beginning of the year. By the time I was midway through the year with my third graders, I was able to turn the teacher approval off for commenting and just go in and periodically kind of check them because they had gotten to the point that they were super appropriate and they knew exactly how to respond to other students. So this is another great part of the lessons too. They've got great activities that you can just plug and play. So being able to just assign these into your class, and I'll go through that here in a minute too when I pull up Seesaw. I know I'm kind of going through this slow show a little fast, but I wanted to make sure we had time to kind of play around with Seesaw and see what it actually looks like. This is another one that I've used too. It's practicing sight words. I did this with my kindergarten classes a lot when we were doing popcorn words. This was about 7 years ago or so when that was a big thing. So we were able to kind of circle, highlight, do the things. They can draw on the screen. It's really great. They added text to these as, I can't think of the word, a label. And they took a picture with the iPad or whatever they were using. And then the student was able to put on the label that said, this is what we did. And they can use the text to talk feature as well. So that does kind of help our lower elementary kids who aren't quite into typing yet, be able to kind of jot down their thoughts. And the mic and photo tools explain and reflect as well. So you don't have to absolutely just do a picture. You can have them do a video. You can have them do a video reflection of them themselves. And the things that my kids really loved to do was to add kind of the emojis and the different things to the video as well when they were in the editing process. So it kind of added some fun and pizzazz and a little bit of individual spirit to it as well. And this is another example of a kiddo using the label. So let me pop out really quick and go to my Seesaw. I'm going really fast. Are there any questions or anything so far? You can go ahead and unmute if you would like. Okay, so when you have your Seesaw activated and you've created your class, you just go up to your teacher and hit create new class. So I have a few different classes here. This is one I created for this session. And the first thing you'll see is the video from Seesaw. And then over here, here's your class journal, your sample students. You will click on your class. Hold on. Yep. And this is where you will see your students. So if you want to add students, you're going to go down here and decide how you're going to add them. So you can add them using Google accounts or email addresses or not. And if you click no, you'll say, are they on a shared device? So are you using your classroom iPad to do Seesaw, or do they have their own devices? In my classroom, I had shared devices. And then I just added my student's name. And it would pop up and it would say they can choose to sign in through a QR code, or they can choose to sign in through their name. I always chose the QR code because it was really easy. And then they just pop it up, scan it. I think that you can do a bit.ly too. And then they can type it in on their Chromebooks. I had a few iPads in my room, so that's what I used. And then from there, they click on their name and they're in their journal. Okay, so now that you have a classroom and students in your classroom, let's go ahead and look at our activities that Seesaw has available. And this year, they're all free. Most of them are free. And you can go to different levels here. So if you go to the pre-K, K, there's all these things. So this is where a lot of those early letter sounds are. This was the one that was shown in that show here. And then there's tons of interactive things as well. So like this practice one, for example, move the shapes to create something new. So you're going to move and you can make them bigger or smaller. And I don't know if you guys still use tangrams or shape blocks, whatever you want to call them in your school, but this was something that I really love to have in my morning bins when I taught both kindergarten and third grades, because it really kind of helped them stay on task and focused. And it helps the problem solving skills too. So just having this ability to kind of move shapes around and stuff. And then this is a good introduction activity for them, maybe beginning of the year, to be like, hey, I did this, and kind of get used to the tools that they can use in Seesaw. So here they could add text to it and say, this is my party hat. Or they can record, allow microphone. This is my party hat. And then that's what it looks like. And they can click separate, pause it. All the things. So then there is, oops. Oh, that's most popular, sorry. So if you go to early literacy, it'll give you a little bit further information on there. And the thing that I really enjoyed when I was looking at these lessons was, as you got older, obviously the activities got a little harder. But this was one of my favorite activities. So it's a word sort: glass, dress, oh, rug's not there, floss. So instead of your cut and paste where your kids always lose the words that they're sorting, you can do it online. And it's all done for you. So you don't have to spend time with prep. Oh, this is another new thing, the introduction you can present. So if you put this on the board, present it to the class.
Fellow word watchers, I'm Teacher Barnes.
I'm Phonics Facts, and it's time to take a look at our weekly word forecast. The focus this week, double consonants.
Yes, Fox. When it rains, it pours. These letters work side by side, but make one sound.
That's right.
Phonics Fox, give us the forecast.
I've got my eyes on it. Across the country here, we have sat, step, sob, pups. Task, all with one S in the word. We make one sound. Oh, it's really coming down now. We have not one, but two S's raining down. Yet, we still hear just that one sound.
Viewers, what words can you think of with that double consonant SS in words?
Let's check it out. We have moss, less, dress.
Right. I see glass and chess.
Ooh, do you know what that one is, viewers? Yep, we have boss and hiss.
You got it. So many words with that double consonant SS, and still just the one sound each time.
Wow, and with that, our Word Watchers forecast signs off. I'm Phonics Fox.
And I'm Teacher Barnes. Keep watching for word changes.
So I think that's a really fun video to kind of get the kids involved and interactive. One of the things that always kept my kids super involved when I was doing large group is showing videos, right? Like everybody loves the videos for the most part, as long as they're age appropriate. So this is a good one, and it's nice and short, so you don't have to worry about, kind of drawing things out. And you don't have to use those words in your lessons. You can just, that's an example. Okay, so now this is what's in our word sort this week. You can just use it as an introduction. But those words are what's over here in the sort. And then you go on to the blend. And they teach you b-a-s. And then they go through the words. And then segmenting, changing, and writing. And this is kind of fun. It's like a word match.
Hello. In this activity, you will use a fly swatter to swat at the words you read that match. You can be at home like me or in a classroom. You can do it by yourself or with a partner. Let's get started. I'm going to flip over two cards one at a time. This one says cross. And this one says last. This is not a match. I do not swap these cards because they don't match. I'll flip them back over and make sure to put them in their same spot.
So they have a good way of showing the introductions to the kids so that they're not seeing the same exact thing every time too. And these are all teacher created by Seesaw ambassadors. And then they go through an approval process before they're uploaded. So watch for more as the year progresses, because I know there's a lot that are in limbo right now, so to speak, because they're waiting to get approved. So I love the fact that these lessons have so many different layers to them. And then there's the show what you know. Let's see. And it has the kids.
Brass.
Right, brass.
Grass. The grass is wet.
Write a
The
sentence.
grass is wet.
And then they have to record themselves saying floss and grass. And then I think down here, they're supposed to write it too. So that is a great way. I know lots of teachers are no longer doing spelling lists and spelling words and all those things. So this is a great body of evidence for them to keep in their Seesaw journal to kind of help throughout the year. And let's see here. If you want to do short A, for example. Oh, that's a terrible idea. Short or not short A. Let's do EA. And they have the spelling board here with the introduction and all those things. So all of your lessons that you're going to do for your vowel teams and all that stuff should be available. So there's not a lot for the upper grades yet. They're working. Oh, I don't want that there. Let me restart here. So for the upper grades, They have some kind of specialized niche areas that they have lessons for, but they aren't as aligned to like the early phonemic awareness and that kind of stuff that these are. They do have that was, so this is including the school year, kindergarten first. They've got phenomenal phonics, fun phonemes, numbers and space, SEL stories, and STEAM. The SEL stories is super fun. Like I said, it's got a lot of really cute characters in it, and the kids really just love it. They're created by your Seesaw ambassadors and they go through a very kind of systematic process before they're approved and added to the library too. And this is a little bit more info about them. This is another one that can be used for your lower elementary is picture word match. So they have those up there, you have them read, and then you can have them circle the picture that matches. So I see a dog, where's the dog? This is much better than those predictable texts because they have to, it's not like, oh, there's only one dog there. They have to read the word and then match the picture that goes with it. So it adds in that decoding aspect instead of the picture word matching. Oops, this one. Oh, I lost the topic on this one. Oh no, sharing student writing. So you can have your kids read aloud their stories that they've written for the upper grades. When I taught third, I did this a lot. And then I would have the kids video respond to each other and give feedback like, hey, I really enjoyed when you talked about this in your story. Or I got confused when this character did this. Could you give me a little bit more information? And again, it was a great way to teach my students how to have that dialogue about text and how to kind of be a deeper author. So it was a great way to kind of start that out and keep them moving. This is an example of the number one. They have letter ones like this for preschool as well. So you can find, write, read, match, and all the things for each number and a lot of the letters. The letters are not done yet, though, I don't believe. And then again, you watch it and they count it, and then you try to draw it yourself. This is from the SEL stories. It's super cute. This is Fern. She's a hedgehog. And it goes into, I think this one's about caring, if I remember right. Fern is feeling, yep. So how she's feeling, angry. And then it goes in and it gives the kids an opportunity to reflect about it too. So checking for understanding, we kind of did that with the other one, with the when we went into the lessons, but there's lots of other options for you as well in the activities, and you can just go through and it has the grade levels on them and everything. So it's super user friendly. And to assign it, gotta move my pictures here, hold on. To assign it, it's super easy. You just go on there and hit assign. And then you say, what class do I want to assign it to? My elementary class. And it's assigned. And it says, have your students sign in, and the students can respond. Yes, and the different levels of what they do. So it's got the pre-K through second, use microphone, draw and record, and then the same for the 3 through 5. And there's a little bit more extra added layer of difficulty with it as well. So they're not doing the same things that the preschoolers are doing. So now, all of this is great and grand, but how do you like utilize it, right? How do you find time to do it? How do you find time to grade it? All those things. One of the biggest challenges I had was that I had my 28 kids, no associate, just me, right? I would spend a lot of my time grading my Seesaw at night. A lot of the great part about Seesaw now, though, is that they have that extra layer of ease with it. So you don't have to create it too. So there's no time for creation. Yes, you still have to go in and grade it and look at it. But since you're not going in and creating all of that on your own, you're saving a lot of time. And if you have taught your kids how to respond and that kind of stuff with their comments, then you can kind of read their comments and be like, oh, okay, so I should look at this while I'm reading it. If Jan says that John needs to do more character development, that's something that I should listen to. And maybe I can add some pointers in there. And with that too, it was easy for me to create mini lessons for my kids because I was like, oh, 5 kids got this wrong or missed this aspect when they wrote their story. And when I taught kindergarten and used it, a lot of the times it was word sorts that I did on there. I loved to have them read their decodable readers on Seesaw, and then they would have their friends read it and watch it and comment on it. And a lot of the times I would have them bring their recording to our small group, and we would watch it together as a group and watch it. I mean, obviously I would ask the kid if they're okay with it because I would never want a kid to be uncomfortable with that. But we would kind of go through it together and be like, wow, you did a really great job decoding that word. How did you know how to do that? And then they'll be like, oh, well, I know that this says this, and it was great to listen to them explain their own thinking too. Google Classroom is connected to it, but only with the Seesaw Plus this year. So that was a new thing that they added. I was going to mention that, but you have to have the Seesaw for schools. So unfortunately, it's not as easy as you think it would, or as I hoped it would be. Let's see.
Hey, Sarah.
Yes.
Can you say that again? What did you say about needing just the school?
Yep. So Seesaw has the free version, which is available to everybody. And then they have the Seesaw for schools. So Seesaw for schools is something that you can purchase as a district or a school. And it has an extra layer of things where it does connect directly with Canvas and Google Classroom. You can integrate all of your lessons and stuff into Canvas and Google Classroom if you have the Seesaw for schools, but that's an extra paid subscription. Does anybody have that?
Actually, sorry to interrupt, Sarah, but real quickly here, we do have a prize to give away at the end of this session that will be a 1-year subscription, not to Seesaw for schools, but to the Seesaw lessons, to those. I know Sarah showed some of the paid lessons, or sorry, Sarah showed the free lessons. There are also some paid ones. However, unfortunately, that's only available to people who already have a Seesaw for schools subscription for your school or your district. So actually, maybe this is a good time if real quickly, anyone who has that subscription will just go ahead and say in the chat that you have the Seesaw for schools subscription. And I'll go ahead and get anybody who does put into the random name generator. And then at the end of the session, we can draw for the Seesaw lessons subscription.
That's awesome. Thank you. Oh, good. Lots of people have it. Erica, I think if you just put in that you have Seesaw, you can just get into the drawing there. I think Alex is going to put you in, right?
Yep, exactly. So anybody who in the chat says that you have the subscription, I'll put you into a drawing. And then at the end of Sarah's session today, I'll just announce who the name generator chose out of all those people.
Fabulous. Okay, so that was an awful lot of information kind of thrown at y'all. Is there anything that anybody has further questions on or that they'd like to see more of? If you don't have a Seesaw account, maybe that you want to be like, hey, what about this? It is not only for English language. Very good question. So they have, if you noticed, oh goodness, wrong one. I saw it on here mostly.
is being recorded.
Oh, goodness. There is a way to filter them too. You can search lesson by standard. I thought there was a way to filter them by language as well. Let me jot a note down. It really is easy to make your own materials. Absolutely. I do know that there is not a Spanish version of like the phonemic awareness and that kind of stuff. But if you are somebody who is very fluent in Spanish, that would be not hard to make either. Yep, parent-teacher conferences, parent-school conferences, that was something I used my Seesaws for as well. It was so fun to put it out and have the parents click on their kids' stuff and see everything they're doing. I also gave my parents full access to what they were doing with the parent connection. So parents were able to be like, hey, I saw Joe did this on Seesaw today through a message. And I'd be like, yeah, that was so great, wasn't it? And then they were able to just automatically give them feedback on it when they got home at night too. I was really lucky, and I've always been in schools that have super involved parents up until taking this position. So I had lots of parent support and parent involvement. I know that's not the case for every school, but if you have parents who are willing to sign up and follow along with their kids' Seesaw, it's really great to keep them engaged. And to keep that whole portfolio too. It's really awesome. Let's see. Yes, here's the Spanish one.
Este es Fern. Fern es un erizo que ama jugar afuera.
So it's on select ones. And you'll have, I mean, it does say it's English here on language, but it does have the Spanish as well. So you kind of have to play around if you have a very diverse classroom setting. And unfortunately, it is only the English and the Spanish. So if you have a classroom that has multiple languages, you won't have to have that ability to translate either, unfortunately. But you could always pop it into Google Translate too and have it work that way and create that as an audio and add it. And you can, let's see. So as you're looking at these two and you assign them, yeah. You can edit them as well. So if I want to add, oh yeah, yep. So you can edit them prior to assigning it. So if you want to add another language, you could do that as well. Choose another bubble, do another little squiggle, write whatever language you want and record Google saying it and pop it in. So it's very editable and very easy to access. There's tons of lessons available, but again, some of them, like this one, is not free. I'm not sure why they have randomly. But for the most part, there's a large chunk of them that are free. The kindergarten looks like it's pretty sparse though, actually. Looks like they've taken some off. So, but however, I don't think these would be too terribly hard to remake if you got to the point where you were all the way done with a lesson and had one more to go. You could make it pretty easily yourself. The lessons are not terribly, I mean, that expensive either if you could get your school to subscribe to it. I had it written down at one point. How much were they? I can't remember where I wrote that down. Sorry, guys. I can add that to my presentation too. Let's see. Let's see, anything else that I didn't cover? Yeah, this was just some other options that you can add to explain their thinking. And these are all free that are on Seesaw. So these are all templates, and you can go in and change the cover of the book that you want and put whatever you're reading in class too. So if you're reading a chapter book aloud and you want them to be like, what happened in chapter 4 yesterday when we read aloud, they can go in and be like, I think this is going to happen, or, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this happened to this character. And they can have their real-time reactions. I also use this a lot for if kids were gone, if they were absent, and then I'd be like, hey, go in and read so-and-so's reaction about what happened to chapter 4 yesterday, and you can get a little bit caught up. And then here's the book, read the chapter. Or sometimes I would record it myself, reading it out loud, and send it to them too. That kind of helped. Okay, so what is one way that you can think of that you could possibly integrate into your classroom? I know some things that I'm kind of jumping around a lot. Sorry, guys. Maybe go ahead and put it in the chat. What's one thing that you could integrate into your classroom? Oh, I did see that. I think it is $40 for individual. That sounds right. I didn't want to say the wrong thing though. Absolutely. Formative assessment is a great way. Like I said, when I utilized it in my small groups, it was really awesome to be able to be like, oh, they did actually do their stuff today. It's not another worksheet. Like I can check on it real time and be like, Joe is actually on what he needs to be on and ready to roll. Mm-hmm. Yes, having other work done too. Sometimes if I had a kid that was really hard to keep on task, and he was at like a read to self station or something, I'd be like, hey, go ahead and read to Seesaw today. And then you can listen to yourself and see if you can add some extra, character and traits to each of your things. Give them a maybe silly accent as you're reading, or add some fun little animation to your read alouds. Give them that challenge. And it usually helped my kiddos stay on task a little bit more. Yes, and it is a great way to monitor progress. It was so fun to see my kids that when they were reading at the beginning of the year, and then compare the videos from the beginning of the year to even mid-year and be like, wow, you have learned so much. Look at how different you're reading. And yes, ELL kids, absolutely. So much of that is by ear. It's hard for them to hear themselves say things, and they always think they say things different or weird or funny, and they're like, oh, I did say that right. That's great. So it's great for the self-confidence too, for a lot of them. Some kids are super uncomfortable with reading aloud. Sorry, my dog thinks he needs attention. And it gets them a couple weeks in before they're comfortable enough to read to the device or whatever they're doing. But once you add like the stickers and that kind of stuff and get them to enjoy it and see the other kids that are doing it and commenting on each other, I didn't have one kid refuse to do it by mid-year. So